Okay, so at the moment I'm reading this book, so I'm going to show you this book. This is called Self-Healing Colitis and Crohn's by somebody called David Klein, who is a follower of Natural Hygiene, so similar to people like Doug Graham, who wrote 80-10-10, and his wife was Rosalind Graham, and that is a system of way of living really, but it's also a healing philosophy, which states that the body is the only thing that can heal you when you are ill, and contains innate healing capacity. And so what we have to do when we're ill is support it with providing all of its needs, and not putting things into it that are harmful, are actively harmful. And so part of that is, they recommend, is the raw vegan diet, and particularly a fairly lowish fat raw vegan diet. I don't agree with everything that I've read in this book, but I do think it's very interesting. I suppose what I'm particularly interested in is does it work? At the moment I'm doing a gastroenterology job. I'm seeing lots of patients with colitis and Crohn's, and diet isn't being discussed very much, but we know that exclusion diets work to an extent, and we know that elemental feeds work, so we know that when, you know, that sort of makes sense, that there's something dietary going on, but we don't really understand what it is. But I am interested that there are lots of testimonies in this book, which, you know, I haven't met the people, I can't vouch for their truth or accuracy. There are also, if you look around on the internet, quite a lot of people talking about it who are, you know, appearing to be genuine and saying this has worked for them. So one of the things I was reading in it this morning that I found quite interesting was the concept of somatic inquiry. So I've been reading about that and learning about that for myself, and that is a practice of sort of self-awareness and body awareness, really trying to work out what's going on in your body at any one time. And particularly I was interested in sort of what is present in your body, but also observing what isn't present, the absences, or what they call voids, perhaps some unmet needs and things, and really just being aware of the more subtle sensations as well, I think. And I guess that comes back to the concept of an ideal diet, because there may not be one single diet that's perfect for everyone, although I think that there are some pretty broad rules that are probably true for our species. Nevertheless, we still do all have to observe our own responses to things and find out what works and what doesn't work, and we have to learn from that. And I suppose that brings me back to my original concept, discussion of the caffeine withdrawal, because, you know, we're not very good necessarily at learning. I know that I'm not, and I keep going back and doing it all again, which I suppose brings me back to why I'm doing this in the first place, why I'm making these videos, because I want to stop going back and doing it again and then having to come, you know, out of it and start all over again and having lots of false starts, really. I'm trying to find a kind of stable diet that works for me, and I'm not quite there yet, but I don't think I'm far off. And I can certainly say that at present it is high raw, it's high in fruit, it's high in salad, it's vegan, absolutely. It's free from addictive substances like alcohol and caffeine, and I've never been a smoker, so that's not an issue for me. But also some food addiction type things, I think, it's been interesting for me as I've been observing my own responses to things that you know, I definitely do have some kind of addictive type behaviours towards certain foods, and they're fairly mild. You know, I'm not talking about anything that's going to ruin your life necessarily, and you know, certainly not in the short term. So that's quite interesting, and recently I've been reading a bit about wheat addiction and the sort of opioid-like breakdown substances in wheat, or that you get when you digest gluten. Because definitely for me, you know, when I stop eating raw, it's usually bread or pasta, and once I start eating it, I find it quite difficult to stop, and it becomes something that sort of takes over almost, so it very quickly becomes the main source of my calories. And again, perhaps in the same way as caffeine, for me, for that reason, it's something I need to avoid more or less completely. It doesn't make me horribly ill, but it does. But there's always an issue of when you're eating one thing, you're not eating something else. So if you're eating a lot of bread, you're not eating all those calories in fresh fruit and green vegetables, you know. So it's not just what the thing that you're eating is that's causing damage, it's also what you're not having that might be providing a level of nutrition that you need. So I guess that relates to the concept of nutritarian style eating, or trying to eat for maximum nutrients, which I came across a few years ago reading Joel Fuhrman's work. I think I've probably rambled enough for now. That's quite long, and I didn't mean to talk for that long, and I've probably, you know, maybe raised more questions than I've answered. So anyway, for me it's an interesting process and something that's ongoing, and if anyone's watching and they would like to ask questions, I may not know the answer immediately, but you know, I would certainly try to find out, and you know, would love to have a conversation, so do get in touch. If you think I've said anything wildly out of order, then equally do get in touch and let me know, because I'm learning and sort of developing my ideas and things. But yeah, so just to finish, I guess, is on a positive note, all the good stuff. You know, I've eaten things I've eaten in the last few days: lots of bananas, apples, peaches, watermelons, grapes, cucumber, lettuce, I don't know, you know, lots of good stuff. And while we might be discussing the you know, finer points and finer details, let's not forget that, you know, fresh, ripe, raw fruits and vegetables are the way to go, you know, for everyone, no matter who you are, no matter what your background or whatever. We all do have the same basic physiology as human beings, and yeah, so fruit and veg, it's good for you, it's good for me. Let's keep going. Excellent. All right, hope to maybe hear from you.